Welcome to Midlife Ala Bahari. If your life looks successful on paper but feels different on the inside, you're in the right place. Here, we explore identity, clarity, fulfillment, and how to live more truthfully inside the life you've built. Follow the show to stay connected to the conversation. Hello and welcome back to Midlife Ala Bahari. I am so glad you're here. Before we begin, just take a moment to settle. You don't need to figure anything out right now. Just listen for what feels true. Some people are not just reliable. They have become the person everyone assumes will handle it. And after a while, that stops being like a strength and starts feeling like a role you don't fully know how to step out of. And that is what I want to talk to you about today. Being reliable is not the problem. The problem is when reliability stops being something you choose and starts becoming the version of yourself everyone depends on, including you. And I know this pattern well enough to say that from the inside. I know what it is to be the one that follows through, the one that keeps things moving, remembers what matters, notices what others miss, steps in early, absorbs more than you say, and tells yourself, it is fine, I can handle it. And sometimes you can't, but that does not mean you should keep handling everything in the same way. That is the conversation today, my friends. Not how to stop being caring, not how to become hard, but what it costs when being the reliable one becomes a role you keep protecting even when it is getting too expensive. What makes this pattern hard to question is that it looks good. It looks generous, mature, steady. It looks like a person people trust. So of course, it is hard to spot when it starts becoming unhealthy. Because nobody pulls you aside and says, you know what your problem is? You're too dependable. Usually it's the opposite. You get praised for it. People appreciate it. People relax around you because they know you will handle things. You become the safe pair of hands, the solid one, the easy one, the one who can be counted on. And let's be honest for a second. Part of that can feel really good. It feels good to be competent. It feels great to be trusted. It feels awesome to know that you can carry things well. So this pattern does not usually begin as a problem. It begins as a strength. But strength can become identity. And identity can become a cage. That is the real issue here, my friends. At some point, I'm dependable becomes I have to be dependable. That is a completely different experience altogether. Because once it becomes your identity, you stop checking in with yourself the same way. You don't pause and ask yourself, do I really want to do this? Do I have room for this? Or energy? Is this mine to carry? What feels true here? You just respond. And usually you respond very quickly. This is where the psychology gets useful. Behaviors that reduce tension get repeated. Not just behaviors that earn praise, behaviors that create relief. If stepping in quickly helps reduce friction, prevent disappointment, restore order, make you feel competent, make you avoid guilt or avoid the discomfort of saying no, your system learns that this is an effective move. Something feels uncertain or heavy? Just be useful. Take care of it. Get ahead of it. Make it easier. Respond fast. That is not random. That is learned. And once that behavior is reinforced enough times, it starts moving from habit into identity. It is no longer just something you do well. It becomes part of who you believe you are. This is the chatter in your brain. I'm the one who handles things. I'm the one who stays steady. I'm the one who remembers. The one who can be counted on. The one who does not let things drop. And that is where it gets sticky. Because now, if you change the behavior, it doesn't just feel inconvenient. It can feel like you're becoming a different person. That is why reliable people often struggle to pull back even when they are tired. It is not only about the task, it is about identity continuity. If I stop being this person in the same way, who am I then? That is the real question. And this pattern shows up in very ordinary, very recognizable ways. It looks like someone sending a message asking for help. And before you have even noticed your own exhaustion of all the other responsibilities and tasks you've taken on, you've already typed back, "Of course, I'm happy to help." It can also look like being that person who remembers everything. What needs to be done, what needs to be bought, what needs follow-up, what might fall through the cracks, until you realize that you've become the invisible system holding more together than anyone really sees. It could also look like walking into a gathering, a family moment, a friendship dynamic, any shared space really. And without even deciding to, you start organizing, tracking, making sure everything is okay, taking charge. Somebody is asking how you are, and you're saying, "I'm fine." Partly because you do not want to make it about you, and partly because telling the fuller truth feels like one more thing to manage. Oh, now I have to manage to be fine as well. It can also look like helping someone you love and then feeling resentful later. Not because you do not care about them, but because some part of you knows you were never actually free in the moment to say anything other than yes. That's what makes this pattern so hard to recognize, my friend. It lives in ordinary moments. And because it lives there, it can go unnamed for a very, very long time. Now, here is where the cost starts showing up. Not always as burnout in the obvious sense. Not always as a dramatic breakdown. More often as a cluster of quieter signals. Resentment. Fatigue that feels heavier than it should. A strange loneliness, even when you're surrounded by people. Irritation that surprises you. A feeling that people know how to rely on you, but not necessarily how to relieve you. And one of the biggest ones, loss of spontaneity. When you're highly identified with being dependable, you stop relating to life from openness. You start relating to it by responsibly anticipating. You're always slightly ahead, tracking, holding, managing, preparing, showing up. And over time, that can make you feel less like a person in your life and more like the infrastructure underneath it all. And this is not a small thing for high achievers. There is a real phenomena where a person becomes so organized around one relational role that they stop feeling free to be anything else. Not because someone explicitly forced them, because the role works. It stabilizes things. It becomes expected and familiar. And then it becomes hard to step outside without guilt, anxiety, or identity disruption. That is what I think happens to many reliable and high-achieving people. They become trapped inside a role that is socially rewarded and personally costly. And because they usually carry it well, other people often do not see the cost clearly. So, the reliable person starts minimizing it too. They tell themselves, "It's fine. I'm just responsible. I'm just better at this than most people. It's easier if I just do it. It's not a big deal." Sometimes it is a big deal. Sometimes the issue is not the task, it is the pattern. And because you keep overriding your own capacity in order to maintain your identity as dependable, you start sending yourself a message. Your needs can wait. Your truth can wait. Your tiredness is not important. Your resentment can be ignored. The role comes first. That is why I think this is ultimately about self-respect. Not the shiny version of self-respect, the real version. The version that asks, am I still allowed to be a full person inside this role? Am I still allowed to have limits? Am I still allowed to disappoint someone without feeling like I've failed at being myself? Am I still choosing this? Or am I just repeating something I have become too practiced at? If reliability is no longer a choice, my friend, then it is no longer just a strength. It is a role. And roles need to be examined. Let's make this even more personal. If you're listening to this episode and this is resonating, I don't think the pattern is hiding in some huge dramatic area of your life. It is probably showing up in very familiar places. The speed of your responses, the things you offer before anyone even asks, the things you remember that other people don't, the way you make yourself available before you have even checked whether you want to be. That is where I would look. Here are a few questions I want you to sit with, not to overanalyze yourself. Remember, you're not broken. You're not here to be fixed. You're just getting deeper into getting to know yourself and aligning your life. So not to overanalyze yourself, just to get more honest. Here's the first question. Where in my life do I no longer feel free to be anything other than dependable? The question is not about where am I helpful. The question is about where am I trapped in the expectation of being the one who will handle it. Number 2, what do I do automatically before I even check what I feel? Do I say yes too quickly? Do I volunteer early? Do I organize myself around other people's needs? Do I take over because I don't trust things to be held any other way? Do I keep things smooth because friction makes me uncomfortable? Question 3. What is the payoff for me in being the reliable one? This is an important question because patterns don't stay alive for no reason. Maybe being the reliable one gives you identity, control, maybe relief. It helps you avoid guilt or feel needed. Maybe it protects you from the vulnerability of not knowing who you are outside that role. There's no shame in whatever the answer is, but if you sit with this question, you're going to get clarity. Question number 4. What is it costing me now? And I mean right now. Not in theory, not tomorrow, not yesterday, right now in this moment. What is it costing me in energy, in ease, in reciprocity, in honesty, in my ability to rest, in my ability to let someone else be responsible, in my ability to want something without immediately filtering it through what is practical or needed? And last question. What would I do differently here if I was not trying to maintain the identity of being the dependable one? That is where the truth starts opening up. And I want you to notice something very specific this week. Watch the speed of your yeses. That is such a revealing little moment. Because when the pattern is active, the yes often comes before the truth, before the pause, before the check-in, before listening to your heart, before the body even has a chance to register it. And if that keeps happening, just notice it. You don't need to judge it. Just notice. Because sometimes the issue is not the request. It is the fact that you never really had a moment to decide. And I want to say something that may be very uncomfortable, but I think it truly matters. Some people are not relating to your reliability as a gift. They are relating to it as the normal arrangement. Often just because that is what has been established. That is the pattern they're used to. Once that pattern becomes normal, people stop questioning it. This means that if it's going to change, you will probably have to question it first. And that's where the real work begins. Not by becoming dramatic, not by becoming hard, by becoming honest enough to see where you have confused being dependable with being required. These two are not the same things. Let's bring this down to something practical. I want to leave you with one exercise and one standard. The exercise is what I call a role audit. Pick one area of your life where you're consistently the dependable one. Just one. And write these 4 lines. What people expect from me here in this role. What I keep doing automatically. What I am no longer saying out loud. What would make this feel more honest? Third question here is very important. What I am no longer saying out loud. Maybe it is, I'm tired of always being the one who remembers. I don't want to keep being the default person here. I feel guilty even admitting I resent this. I have made myself too available. I don't know when this stopped feeling like a choice. This is the exercise, my friends. Not to blow anything up, not to make a speech, not to judge yourself, not to fix yourself, just to re-enter the situation with more truth. Now, I want to leave you with a standard that I want you to test this week. Before I say yes, I will pause long enough to know whether it is really mine. And what really helps me is that I simply close my eyes for a second and I place my hands on my heart and I just listen. Before I say yes, I will pause long enough to know whether it is really mine. This is your practice this week. And if you want one question to support it, use this. Am I responding from willingness or from the role? This one question can change a lot because willingness feels cleaner, less pressured, less automatic, less identity protective. And role-based yeses feel different. They're fast, tight, expected, and loaded. That is where I want to leave this conversation. Being dependable is not the problem. The issue is when caring becomes fused with carrying. When reliability becomes the role you protect at the expense of your own honesty. And if that is happening, the work is not to become less generous. It is to become more discerning, more honest, more deliberate, more willing to let your reliability be a choice again instead of a requirement. The goal is not just to be someone people can count on. The goal is to stop building relationships, responsibilities, and ways of living that only work because you keep overriding yourself. And yes, the dynamics of your relationships is going to change. Some people are going to drop. You're going to attract new people. That's okay. It means you're evolving and you're putting yourself first. And the deeper goal really is this: to be someone you can trust, not to keep volunteering your life away in the name of being the dependable one. Thank you for being here, my friends. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.